Well, hey Gundam fans, welcome to another episode of Gundam Explained. For this video, we're continuing our look at 8th MS Team. We're actually on episode 7, Reunion, and it picks right off where Shiro and Aina kind of meet again. But before we get started, if you haven't, please subscribe. And as you're watching the video, if you think it's cool, give it a like. That helps me out. Now, last we left off on the previous episode, the 8th MS Team was at that canyon in the desert where they were kind of looking around to see where the Obsolescence could possibly be. And then out of nowhere, the Obsolescence 2 appears. There's a little skirmish going on. And as it is about to take off, Shiro Amada, in his Gundam ground type unit, jumps onto it, the Obsolescence, as it takes off in an attempt to stop it from leaving so they can stop it for good. And then as the pilot of the Obsolescence speaks, Shiro recognizes the voice and the episode ends. And we pick right up there from where we left off, kind of. Let's take a look. We're actually picking up where we're seeing Yuri on the Zeon side, who we haven't seen in a while. And he has his unit out in Odessa. And they're really at the point in the war where Mikuve and everyone kind of lost, when it comes to the Zeons and that era of Earth, where the mining areas are. And so what's going on is Zeon is getting out of there. But to them, to Yuri, the war's not over. It'll just continue on in space. But I guess it's just kind of a cool, quick little look at another part of the 1 year war during the time of the 8th MS Team to kind of see where we're at. But also the character of Yuri also continues on in this. Really cool shot here. Seeing the tank, with Type 61 tank, and seeing the two ground GMs. Now, this may have been something obvious I totally missed, but what is the weapon we're seeing here? Is this just a mega beam particle cannon they're firing off? Is it from something specific? I guess really was a last-ditch effort by Zeon to do some attacks before they were to take off. Because really what happens, Yuri gets aboard a cool-looking Zeon sea ship and takes off. Looks like a complete Chad here. I mean, he's like standing there sleeveless, collar up, looking like a badass. He's kind of got that Wolverine hair going on. And he just has a lady to throw a jacket on him. Now, here's another cool one I haven't seen much of, and I was trying to search around for this. Anyone know what it's called? Really, it's just a sea-based ship of Zeons that they're using. It kind of has that similar look to the DOP or the other type of ships they have. But yeah, if anyone has any information, yeah, please share. Okay, so now we're back at where it left off from the previous episode. Shiro and Aina, they realize that they have reunited, hence the name of the episode, Reunion. They've taken off, and they're lost to the rest of the team, not only 8th MS Team, but the Zeons that are watching. Guineas, her brother, assumes that she's fine because they get a distress signal, but they can detect that it is from the Federation, and they're actually going to use that to go and scout the area. Really a cool shot here. I kind of like this moment that is occurring, how they're realizing who they are, that they finally kind of reunited and probably didn't intend to. And this is actually littered with a bunch of cool shots. And we get a lot of close-up looks here of the machinery and how the things look. We kind of see, and I want to talk about this more later, but the hand of the Ground Gundam itself, it looks like it has some sort of sleeve that covers the hand itself, so you don't see the joints. I wasn't too familiar with that aspect of it, unless that's just how they decided to draw it. But it looks pretty cool. But anyway, there's a kind of an issue with the Obsolescence 2. Now, it uses the Minovsky flight system, but also has the beam cannon in tow. And because it has those two uses of energy output, it kind of causes a strain on the system, and it's hard for it to stay, in flight. So they're having to land. Now, it's unable to, as I said, take off or stay level, and it probably has to do with the fact that a mobile suit is hanging on to one side of it. So Shiro actually has to use his thrusters to kind of help with the landing. Now, as they're landing, we kind of see now they're in a snow area, mountainous area. I was trying to look up and research where they could possibly be. The Himalayas is kind of like the first guess, just because it's a little more north. But in my opinion, that seems super north. I did some research of some areas in the vicinity of northern Southeast Asia, almost like southwest China, where There could be mountainous areas that snow does occur, so it really could be anywhere there. The Himalayas seem like that would be super far away from where they were at, but maybe just for the story's sake, that's where it is. And as it lands, it's rolling down the side of a mountain, and Shiro's using his best to like hold it, and you really think he's gonna fall off, and it even gets to like the edge of the mountain. Really cool shot because you see the Opsilus, the hull of the Opsilus just like break through the cockpit of the Ground Gundam, and some glass even cuts Shiro's face, so it looks pretty cool. All right, and here looks pretty cool. Check out. We're seeing how the ejection system works. So yeah, he actually falls. You know, they kind of have a moment there for a second at the edge of that mountainous cliffside, but in the end, he does fall. So, you know, back at the testing facility, Gineas, which is Aina's brother, we got Norris Packard. Gineas doesn't seem to really care that they've possibly lost Aina and the Opsilus. He assumes she got away, but is it more of he just assumes she got away, or he kind of just doesn't care? Because it almost seems like he doesn't care. Because Packard is a bit more worried and troubled about what's going on and really wants to be able to find her. So Shiro's like in a blizzard. He's probably up in high elevations in the mountain, in the snow. If it really is the Himalayas, who knows how cold it could be for him. But yeah, he's having a hard time being able to get through this. Cool to see some of the air units from Zeon. It's Norris Packard. He's out trying to get Aina. He's sending out a signal for her to try to respond. Although, in her perspective, she's more worried about saving Shiro. So interesting here to see that what she's doing is setting up some remote detonation. And I think that plays a bigger part here later, and it's kind of questionable to me. But yeah, let's keep going. Okay, very cool. Kind of seeing Shiro use some of the supplies he has on him. This might be some standard Federation gear, survival gear, just in case something happens. And it looks like it's one of those warm blankets to use, but it doesn't really last too long. That's too bad. Now, it was funny that Shiro saw some water, and he's like, how is this possible? Where could running water be coming from? And he looked behind him, and he saw his Ground Gundam sitting there. It had some heat still left from when it was using its thrusters, but by the time he got back to it, all that water had already frozen. And as he sort of, you know, faints from the exhaustion, we kind of see the silhouette of Aina coming to rescue him. You know, reminiscent of earlier Gundam UC shows, we're randomly now seeing a shot of a colony getting a hole blasted into it, Zaku 1 appearing, and it fires off the gas canister. So this is side 2, and this is the example of what occurred when the Zeons were gassing colonies in order to prove a point. Shiro happened to be there. There's multiple sources of why he's there. One was he was just on vacation, put on his normal suit to go out and help. The other one was he was sent over there to help out. Either way, he watches people die in front of him from the gas, and someone even putting their bloody hand on his helmet to kind of really show the horrors. And this is almost showing, I guess, or reaffirming to the viewers too, what Shiro has witnessed to have the hatred he does towards Zeon, like most people do. It's less that he is fighting because he just has to fight, but he's actually witnessed some of the horrific things that the Principality of Zeon was willing to do. So we get back to Shiro laying passed out. He was just dreaming, or his mind was just playing back another traumatic scenario that he went through in his life. And as Aina is waking him up, he is then reliving that fear, and he is kind of grabbing onto her. He's not really coming to his senses at the moment, but he eventually does. And that kind of makes him think about, as much as he likes her, he hates Zeon and what they've done. And they're kind of, at this point, there's kind of this like conflict between them two about how much they like each other, potentially love each other, but they're on the wrong sides here. Some more cool shots. Just, there's a lot of exposition here where they are, you know, emotionally involved with each other. His hands were frostbitten. She had kind of helped by wrapping them up. He was going to start working on the Gundam, but he needs her help. And there's a lot of good moments here. You know, the biggest takeaway from this is you then see Shiro act very emotional and loving toward Aina. And at this point, it feels very genuine because during these first 6 episodes of 08th MS Team, we've seen how much Shiro is a very kind officer, kind soldier. He's had to reprimand members of his unit, but he's always been kind about it. He really cares about others. Even if things happen to him that don't work out, he's always wanted to make sure he can prove himself by saving his fellow soldiers. And so I think it's really rewarded here when he's finally then with Aina, and then he can have that heart-to-heart with her. So I gotta say that's very well done. Something you can't really get done in a movie, and it does take episodes to do. All right, we're gonna see some cool stuff here. They've got an idea in play, and we're seeing the beam saber be ejected from the side of the Ground Gundam. Now, remember, this is different than a normal Gundam or GM where we would have the beam sabers up on the top or the side here. This is on the literal side of it. First, again, what we're seeing now, earlier in the show, we saw where they were going to go reach for a gun, and it had like a little connector point to it. Now, either that is retracted and it comes out, or only the right hand has it for a gun, and the left hand just includes the beam saber part. If you see what I'm saying here, I would almost think too, sometimes how we see the beam sabers used, are they really only in one fixed position? Am I trying to dive too deep into this? But the other part of this is how the hand looks. It looks like it has a glove, a sleeve over the mechanical parts. I don't remember seeing anything like this before. And it actually looks really cool, and it makes a lot of sense. Or this is a special case for this Gundam unit. I'm going to have to do some more digging on that. And what's cool is you have to see the animation, but you can see all the parts that are allowing that connection to take place between the hand and the beam saber. And cool to see that he can go into the arm and turn up the heat of the beam saber. And you can create a hot tub in minutes, a spa, just by having that beam saber run over the water or the ice, create the water. Great idea. Okay. What a gentleman. You see what I mean? A gentleman. You know, again, it's very cool, this scene. It's been earned where they're sitting together, having their little heart-to-heart. You know, it's very well done. I kind of like in the background how we're seeing that Zeon style, the Zeon maybe family, zombie family, but more Zeonic, high society architecture. We're seeing that in the background. Now, this is Aina when she's a kid. But I like that touch because I remember seeing that castle like in the original Mobile Suit Gundam and thinking that's all crazy and silly looking, but they've stuck to that, and I respect that. And yeah, we're seeing it again back there. Now, she's even mentioning how she doesn't like what her brother is doing. So, again, they're in love with each other, but they're mad that they're on other sides, so they kind of just want to forget about it for now, but they're also thinking about what is going on. But more so, it seems to be 8th MS Team is really focusing on Zeon bad, not really showing too much of Federation necessarily being bad. Okay, we're getting some sick dogfighting here. I love that core fighter, core booster. I think it's got a specific name to it. There's actually a anime Robot Spirits version coming out. It's from an option part set, I believe. But very cool to see. I love this design, and I love how they kind of have this battle going on. Okay, so a Federation transport carrier is moving on to the Opsilus, right? And it's really to capture it, get whatever information it needs, etc. Really cool shot here, seeing that GM drop. But she blows it up. And the reason I question this is because they're having this heart-to-heart, talking about Zeon bad, all this stuff. And I know she's maybe doing this for her brother so they don't get access to that information. But it's just, she's just willing to kill those others. I don't know. I'm a little conflicted. I'm sure she's conflicted too. That's a very kind of elaborate and deep kind of, emotional conflict that is occurring right now. She is wanting to destroy the Opsilus in order for the Federation not to get to it. But in the end, she probably killed whoever was piloting the GM, whoever was piloting the transport ship, any other crew of the transport ship, right in front of Shiro after having, the heart-to-heart they're having. It's, I'm sure it's hard for her. I kind of like that. You see that meme with Arthur, and he kind of holds his fist. There's one for Gundam too, but yeah, I guess Aina's taking off. She's getting picked up. She tells the pilot, yeah, that Fetty soldier's dead. Yeah, it's tough stuff here. Tough stuff. And that is it. That is it. Kind of a quick recap, maybe, but there was a lot that went on here, really propelling the story forward, but questioning character motivations when they are faced with what they are faced with. And we saw some really cool machinery here. I mean, not only are we seeing the second version of the Obsolescence, but we saw some sea vehicles and weaponry at the beginning, but we also see the more air combat stuff going on, which is really awesome. And then that moment where Aina and Shiro finally meet, and Aina does a lot for Shiro. Even if Shiro kind of helped land the Obsolescence so she's not hurt, he was frostbitten out in the snow. She helped him out. They worked together to get that hot tub spa going. They had that heart-to-heart. I don't know. I wonder what she's thinking. It's like they could run off together, wink, wink. But, we'll see what happens as the story moves forward. I guess it's planting the seeds for what happens. So, yeah, guys, let me know what you think of this episode. The more I dive in specifically to 8th MS Team, the more I appreciate it over when I would just watch it before, just kind of watch it. I mean, me kind of picking apart what's happening as I'm watching it allows me to appreciate the world building, how we're seeing specific things occur, like the connection points on the hands or that kind of sleeve-like look for the hand of the Ground Gundam, but also the other weaponry and machinery that we're seeing amidst all the character drama that is occurring, and it all works well. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll talk later.